The vast conference hall hummed with the soft vibrations of multiple alien species gathering for the Galactic Diplomatic Summit. Hye-jin stood perfectly still, her emerald-colored skin reflecting the soft blue light of the holographic displays. Her research team had spent years preparing for this moment, first contact with human representatives. Jae-sung Park walked into the room, looking both confident and slightly nervous. His dark navy diplomatic uniform pressed neatly against his body, a contrast to the various alien forms surrounding him. He carried a data tablet and moved with a purposeful stride that caught Hye-jin's attention. The Krellian researcher had studied human communication patterns for decades, but nothing could prepare her for the actual encounter. Humans were known throughout the galaxy as an unpredictable species, adaptable, emotional, and surprisingly resilient. Her species reproduced through precise cellular division, a clean and efficient process. Humans, however, seemed to make reproduction an entire complex social ritual. As Jae-sung approached the central platform, Hye-jin's sensory organs began collecting data. His body language suggested a mix of professional composure and underlying excitement. She noticed how humans used subtle facial expressions to communicate emotions, something her species found remarkably inefficient. Representatives of the HFY Galactic Council, Jae-sung began, his voice clear and steady. I am here to discuss potential collaborative research initiatives between Earth and the various galactic civilizations. Hye-jin's translation device captured every nuance of his speech. She was particularly interested in understanding human social structures and reproductive strategies. The preliminary reports suggested humans had an incredibly complex method of continuing their species. Elder Kang, the senior Krellian diplomat, sat nearby with a skeptical expression. His tentacle-like appendages moved slightly, indicating mild irritation. Humans were still considered a relatively young species in galactic terms, and many older civilizations viewed them with a mixture of curiosity and mild condescension. Jae-sung continued his presentation, explaining human technological advancements and their unique approach to problem-solving. Hye-jin noticed how he used hand gestures to emphasize certain points, another fascinating aspect of human communication. During a brief pause in the presentation, Hye-jin's research protocols kicked in. She needed to observe, collect data, and understand. Humans were an anomaly in the galactic community, a species that seemed to break every conventional rule of evolutionary development. The conference hall was filled with representatives from over 20 different alien civilizations. Some looked mechanical, others were energy-based life forms, and a few resembled nothing like traditional biological entities. And then there were humans, carbon-based, emotional, complex creatures that defied traditional scientific categorization. Jae-sung's presentation concluded with a series of collaborative research proposals. He spoke about human adaptability, their capacity for innovation, and their unique approach to solving complex problems. Hye-jin found herself increasingly intrigued. When the initial diplomatic exchanges finished, Hye-jin saw her opportunity. She approached Jae-sung, her movements calculated and precise. Her research required direct interaction, and this was her chance to gather first-hand information about human social dynamics. Representative Park, she said, her translation device converting her native language into perfect English. I have several research queries about human social structures. Jae-sung turned, surprised by her direct approach. Most alien species were more formal, more reserved. Humans, however, appreciated directness. And what might those queries be? He asked, a slight smile forming on his face. Hye-jin knew this moment was more than just a scientific interaction. This was the beginning of something significant, a potential bridge between two very different civilizations. Her entire research career had led to this precise moment of first contact. Little did she know that her upcoming research would challenge everything the Krellian collective understood about biological reproduction and social interaction. The conference hall continued to buzz with diplomatic conversations, holographic displays flickering with data and potential future collaborations. And at the center of it all stood Hye-jin and Jae-sung, representatives of their respective species, about to embark on a journey of mutual discovery. Hyejin's research facility sat on the edge of a massive space station, its sterile white walls lined with advanced monitoring equipment. She had secured permission for an in-depth study of human reproductive and social behaviors, a project that would challenge everything her species knew about biological continuation. Jae-sung agreed to be her primary research subject, understanding the importance of cross-species scientific exploration. The first interview began with basic questions about human relationships, but quickly revealed a complexity that fascinated Hyejin. Reproduction for humans isn't just about creating offspring, Jae-sung explained, his hands moving expressively. It's about connection, emotion, and deep personal commitment. Her data tablets filled with information that seemed almost chaotic to her scientifically precise mind. Humans didn't simply choose reproductive partners based on genetic compatibility. They used something called love, an emotional concept that had no direct translation in her native language. Hyejin discovered that human reproduction involved multiple stages of emotional and physical interaction. They had elaborate courtship, rituals, long-term pair bonding, and an intricate system of emotional support that continued long after offspring were produced. Her research subjects included various human couples. Some were young, just beginning their reproductive journey. Others were older, with multiple offspring already raised. Each interview revealed new layers of complexity. One particularly interesting case involved a couple who had chosen to adopt children rather than produce biological offspring. This concept was entirely foreign to Hyejin's species. Why would beings voluntarily raise offspring not genetically connected to them? The more she learned, the more questions arose. Human reproduction seemed less like a biological process and more like an elaborate social dance. Emotional compatibility appeared just as important as genetic potential. Jae-sung became more than just a research subject. He became a guide, helping Hyejin understand the nuanced world of human relationships. He explained concepts like romantic love, commitment, and the complex emotions surrounding reproduction. "We don't just create children," he told her during one interview. "We create entire family units, support systems that can last generations." The Krelian research protocols struggled to categorize this information. Their own reproductive process was clinical, precise cellular division that created genetically identical offspring. Humans were messier, more unpredictable. Hyejin's preliminary reports began to alarm her scientific colleagues. The Krelian collective preferred predictable, measurable biological processes. Human reproduction seemed almost like an art form, emotional, complex, deeply personal. She collected data on hormonal changes, psychological bonding, the intricate dance of human courtship. Each discovery challenged her previous understanding of biological continuation. Some fascinating findings emerged. Humans had elaborate rituals surrounding reproduction, ceremonies called weddings, complex social expectations, emotional investments that extended far beyond the initial reproductive act. The research facility became her entire world. Holographic displays showed intricate human relationship maps, chemical analysis of emotional responses, detailed studies of pair bonding behaviors. Jae-sung would often sit with her, explaining human perspectives. "It's not just about creating another being," he would say. "It's about creating a future, building a connection that transcends simple biological imperative." Her sensory organs worked overtime, processing this new information. Humans were teaching her that reproduction was more than a scientific process. It was a deeply emotional journey. The Krelian research team became increasingly skeptical. How could a species survive with such an unpredictable reproductive strategy? But Hyejin saw something else, a remarkable adaptability, an emotional intelligence that transcended simple biological mechanisms. Her data tablets were filled with information that would revolutionize galactic understanding of biological continuation. Humans weren't just reproducing. They were creating complex social ecosystems that supported and nurtured new life in ways no other species had documented. As the research continued, Hyejin realized she was documenting more than a biological process. She was uncovering the intricate, beautiful complexity of human existence. The space station hummed with the quiet intensity of scientific discovery. And at its center, Hyejin continued her groundbreaking research, slowly unraveling the magnificent mystery of human reproduction. The research facility had become Hyejin's entire world. Months of studying human interactions had transformed her understanding of biological existence. What began as a clinical scientific investigation had evolved into something far more profound. Jae-sung introduced her to human family recordings, visual documentations of human emotional connections. These weren't just simple data points. They were windows into an entire emotional universe that her species had never comprehended. One particular recording changed everything. An elderly human couple sat together, their hands intertwined, sharing memories of decades together. Their connection seemed to transcend physical biology. It was a bond that went beyond simple reproductive requirements. Love is not logical, Jae-sung explained, watching the recording. It's a feeling that connects humans beyond physical or genetic requirements. Hyejin's scientific brain struggled to process this concept. In her species, connections were purely functional. Reproduction was a precise calculation of genetic potential. Humans, however, created entire emotional ecosystems around their reproductive processes. She discovered that human reproduction involved complex emotional preparations. Parents didn't just create offspring, they prepared entire support systems. They invested years of emotional energy, financial resources, and personal commitment into raising their children. The research data revealed fascinating patterns. Human parents would sacrifice personal comfort, change entire life trajectories, and invest massive emotional resources into their offspring's development. This was completely different from her species' clinical reproduction method. During one interview, a human mother explained her experience of childbirth. "It's not just about creating a new life," she said, tears forming in her eyes. "It's about creating a future, sharing love, building a connection that lasts forever." Hyejin's sensory organs worked overtime, capturing every emotional nuance. She realized humans didn't just reproduce, they created complex emotional narratives around the process of continuing their species. The Krelian research team became increasingly frustrated. They wanted quantifiable data, precise measurements. But human reproduction defied simple scientific categorization. It was messy, unpredictable, driven by emotions that couldn't be easily measured. Jae-sung became more than a research subject. He became a guide, helping Hyejin understand the intricate world of human emotional connections. He shared stories of his own family, explaining how human relationships worked. "We choose our partners not just for genetic compatibility," he explained, "but for emotional connection, shared values, mutual understanding." The research facility filled with holographic displays showing human relationship maps. Each connection represented more than a simple biological link. They were complex emotional networks that supported and nurtured life in ways no other species had documented. Hyejin discovered that humans had multiple types of love: romantic love, familial love, friendship love, each type creating different emotional ecosystems. Their reproductive process wasn't just about creating new beings, it was about creating entire supportive networks. One particularly moving research session involved studying human adoption processes. Humans would choose to raise children not genetically connected to them, investing massive emotional and financial resources into their development. "We believe love transcends biological connections," a human adoption counselor explained during an interview. "Family is not just about genetic similarity, it's about emotional commitment." The more Hyejin learned, the more she realized how limited her species' understanding of life had been. Humans saw reproduction as a deeply emotional, personal journey. It wasn't just about continuing the species. It was about creating meaning, building connections. Her research data began to challenge everything the Krelian collective understood about biological continuation. Humans weren't just surviving. They were creating complex, emotionally rich life experiences that went far beyond simple reproductive requirements. As the research continued, Hyejin found herself experiencing something close to what humans might call wonder. She was documenting more than a biological process. She was uncovering the magnificent, complex beauty of human emotional existence. The space station hummed with the quiet intensity of scientific discovery, and at its center, Hyejin continued her groundbreaking research, slowly unraveling the incredible mystery of human emotional connection. The Krelian Collective's main research chamber was silent when Hyejin began her presentation. Hundreds of senior researchers and diplomatic leaders watched her with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Elder Kang sat in the central position, his multiple sensory appendages twitching with mild irritation. He had already reviewed her preliminary research and found it unconventional. Humans are not just another species, Hyejin began, her voice steady and clear. They represent a completely different approach to biological continuation and social development. Her holographic displays showed complex human relationship networks. Each connection represented emotional bonds that went far beyond simple genetic compatibility. The researchers watched, confused and intrigued. Their reproductive strategy defies our traditional understanding, she continued. Humans invest decades of emotional and financial resources into raising offspring. They create support systems that extend beyond immediate biological requirements. Elder Kang interrupted. This seems inefficient. Why would a species invest so much energy into a single reproductive cycle? Hyejin had anticipated this question. She activated another display showing human technological advancements, social innovations, and cultural developments. Each achievement was directly linked to their unique approach to reproduction and social bonding. Because their method creates adaptable, innovative beings, she explained. Their emotional investment produces individuals capable of complex problem-solving and advanced social cooperation. The research chamber grew quieter. Her presentation challenged everything the Krelian Collective understood about biological development and species progression. She shared recordings of human families, an elderly couple supporting their adopted children, parents sacrificing personal comfort to ensure their offspring's education, scientists discovering breakthrough technologies inspired by family support systems. Humans don't just reproduce, Hyejin emphasized. They create entire ecosystems of emotional support and knowledge transfer. Some researchers began taking additional notes. Others looked skeptical. Elder Kang's appendages moved with increasing agitation. Their reproduction involves complex emotional negotiations, she continued. They don't just create offspring. They create entire social networks designed to support and develop new life. One senior researcher asked, "But how can a species survive with such an unpredictable approach?" Hyejin smiled. Her next display showed human achievements, space exploration, technological innovations, complex social structures. Each achievement was a direct result of their unique reproductive and social strategies. By creating individuals with emotional intelligence, adaptability, and complex problem-solving skills, she responded. The presentation continued. She demonstrated how human emotional connections drove scientific discoveries, technological innovations, and social progress. Their reproductive strategy wasn't a weakness. It was a remarkable evolutionary advantage. Elder Kang remained silent, processing the information. His species had always believed in precise clinical biological continuation. Humans presented an entirely different model of species development. Their method creates resilience, Hyejin explained. Each generation doesn't just inherit genetic material. They inherit emotional intelligence, complex problem-solving skills, and adaptive capabilities. The research chamber transformed during her presentation. What began as skepticism gradually turned into fascination. Humans were no longer seen as a primitive species. They were viewed as a complex, innovative civilization with a unique approach to existence. Elder Kang finally spoke. "Your research challenges our entire understanding of biological development." Hyejin knew this was a significant moment. Her research wasn't just a scientific investigation. It was a bridge between two fundamentally different approaches to understanding life and continuation. Humans teach us that reproduction is more than a biological process, she concluded. It's a complex emotional journey of creating and supporting life. As she finished her presentation, the research chamber erupted into discussions. Researchers who had entered skeptical now looked curious, almost excited. The Krelian collective would never be the same. And at the center of this transformation stood Hyejin, a researcher who had dared to challenge perspectives and reveal the remarkable complexity of human existence. The Galactic Diplomatic Conference Hall buzzed with unprecedented anticipation. Hyejin's research had transformed how alien civilizations viewed humans. What began as a simple scientific investigation had become a revolutionary understanding of human potential. Jae-sung Park stood beside her, representing Earth's diplomatic corps. His presence symbolized the bridge between scientific discovery and galactic diplomacy. The human representative looked calm, but Hyejin could detect subtle signs of excitement. Elder Kang, once a skeptical researcher, now became the primary advocate for human recognition. Her comprehensive research had completely changed the Krelian collective's perspective. Humans were no longer seen as a young, unpredictable species. They were now recognized as a complex, emotionally intelligent civilization. The conference hall filled with representatives from over 50 different galactic civilizations. Each delegation carried holographic displays, communication devices, and translation systems. But today, they were united by a single purpose: understanding humans. Humans represent a unique approach to species development. Hyejin began her presentation. Her voice carried the weight of months of intensive research. Their reproductive and social strategies create remarkable adaptive capabilities. She displayed holographic images showing human achievements, space exploration missions, technological innovations, complex social problem solving. Each achievement demonstrated the power of their unique emotional intelligence. The alien representatives leaned forward, captivated. Hyejin explained how human reproduction wasn't just a biological process. It was a complex emotional and social strategy that created resilient, innovative individuals. Jae-sung occasionally added context, explaining human cultural nuances. His personal stories complemented the scientific data, providing emotional depth to the research. One alien representative asked, "How can a species survive with such an emotionally complex reproductive strategy?" Hyejin's response was immediate. She showed data demonstrating how human emotional intelligence drove technological and social innovations. Their approach wasn't a weakness. It was an extraordinary evolutionary advantage. The diplomatic conference transformed during her presentation. What began as a technical discussion became a profound exploration of human potential. Alien civilizations started seeing humans not as a young species, but as a remarkably adaptive civilization. Elder Kang supported her presentation, adding scientific credibility. His endorsement meant everything. The Krelian collective's support would influence numerous galactic diplomatic relationships. Hyejin's research revealed that human reproduction involved creating entire support ecosystems. Parents didn't just create offspring, they created future innovators, problem solvers, and potential galactic contributors. The holographic displays showed human family structures, educational systems, and social support networks. Each image demonstrated a sophisticated approach to species development that went beyond simple biological continuation. Diplomatic representatives from energy-based life forms, mechanical civilizations, and biological species watched with increasing fascination. Humans presented a model of existence that transcended traditional understanding of species development. As the presentation concluded, the conference hall erupted into discussions. Alien civilizations began reconsidering their perspectives on human potential. Diplomatic agreements were being mentally drafted, research collaborations imagined. Jae-sung looked at Hyejin, a subtle smile of appreciation crossing his face. Her research had done more than document human reproduction. It had created a bridge of understanding between different galactic civilizations. Elder Kang approached the podium. Humans are not just another species, he announced. They are a remarkable example of emotional and adaptive intelligence. The diplomatic conference marked a turning point. Humans would no longer be viewed as a young, unpredictable civilization. They would be recognized as a complex, innovative species with extraordinary potential. Hee-jin realized her research had accomplished something remarkable. She had transformed diplomatic perspectives, challenged scientific understanding, and created a new framework for understanding life and continuation. As the conference concluded, alien representatives exchanged contact information, discussed potential collaborations, and shared newfound respect for human civilization. The space station hummed with the energy of transformation, and at its center stood Hee-jin and Jae-sung, representatives of a new era of galactic understanding. A single scientific investigation had changed everything. Humans were no longer just another species. They were a testament to the power of emotional intelligence, adaptive capabilities, and complex social strategies.